Good morning. President Park Geun-hye met with ruling and opposition party leaders seeking bipartisan cooperation in reviving the local economy. The timing of the first interest rate hike in nearly 10 years by the Federal Reserve is expected to be announced Wednesday in the U.S. What can Korea's economy expect? The Seoul International Marathon runs through the heart of Seoul. Watch as Joey Albright runs and walks the full 42.195-kilometer course.
Oh, wow.
And seawater Conch, or better known locally as Sora, is the ingredient for the day. See what Chef Jean-Paul Perez has up his sleeves on Korea Today, Wednesday, March 18, 2015.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
And good morning. Thank you for joining us on Korea Today. I'm Kim Mi-young alongside Oh Jin-ju and Kim Min-jung. And we've been having a bout with the fine dust layer coming in Seoul as well as the peninsula. But it seems that what's usually considered not so good news is going to be good news. We're getting some spring showers later.
And the nation's southern regions are expected to receive the most amount of precipitation today. And for Jeju, a heavy rain advisory has been issued. So for those of you in the southern regions, do keep that in mind.
Right, the air quality yesterday was pretty bad here in Seoul. Hopefully after this spring rain, things will clear up a little bit and start looking beautiful once again. In any case, do bring an umbrella with you on your way to work this morning. All right, moving on to our headlines on this Wednesday morning. President Park Geun-hye has sat down with the leaders of two major political parties, the ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy, and asked for bipartisan cooperation in reviving the domestic economy. In her first meeting with the heads of the rival parties in 4 months, President Park expressed hopes that her recent trip to the Gulf states can bring about business opportunities that can lead to a second Middle East boom following the first one in the 1970s. Opposition party leader Moon Jae-in, who was a presidential candidate in 2012, called on the president to raise corporate taxes and minimum wage, criticizing the government for what he called a failed economic policy. Moon from the Liberal Party also suggested that President Park hold a summit with the North Korean leader within this year. The president, in turn, asked for support in getting Pyongyang to engage in an unconditional dialogue.
Seoul's defense ministry says third parties may have their opinions over the possible deployment of Washington's THAAD missile defense battery in Korea, but should not attempt to exert influence on the matter. A day after visiting Chinese Assistant Foreign Minister Liu Jianchao urged Seoul to seriously consider Beijing's position on the possible terminal high-altitude area defense system deployment, Korea's Ministry of Defense spokesperson Kim Min-seok spoke at a press briefing on Tuesday, saying the decision will be made on Seoul's security interests. China's foreign ministry urged Seoul to be prudent in the decision, saying a country should pursue its security interests, not at the expense of another's, while keeping regional peace and stability. Beijing believes the THAAD system's long-range radar can infringe on China's military security. Kim stressed that neither South Korea nor the U.S. has held official talks on the matter, and the issue is to deter North Korea's escalating nuclear and missile threats, and should it be installed, would not threaten China.
And Korean stocks on the main bourse hit a 6-month high on Tuesday following the central bank's rate cut last week and the overnight gains on Wall Street and the European markets. The benchmark Kospi ended up rising more than 2% to close at nearly 2030, the highest since last September, and also the fastest daily percentage gain in 20 months. The rally was led by tech and automaker shares, with blue chip Samsung Electronics nearing a 52-week high of 1.5 million won per share during trading. Analysts also say the market rallied on speculation that the weaker than expected U.S. economic data released overnight might prompt the Fed to reconsider an early interest rate hike. The won also gained to close the day at 1,128.9 against the greenback.
Now, the U.S. Federal Reserve is expected to give a clearer picture on when it's going to make a rate hike in an announcement following the Federal Open Market Committee meeting that's currently being held in Washington. Now, the last rate hike the Fed made was back in 2006, and it has held its rates at near zero levels since 2008 following the global financial crisis. And for more on market expectations on the Fed's next move and its impact on the Korean economy, we're now joined by Arirang News' Hwang Jae here in the studio. Good morning, Jae.
Hi, Jinju. So the market is expecting the Fed to signal on a rate rise in June by dropping the word patient from its official policy statement, wrapping up the two-day meeting. Since last December, the Fed said that it will remain patient before raising the interest rate. Now, improving U.S. job data is what is buoying the market expectation of a rate rise. Take a listen.
There's been a very clear trend towards improvement. We saw that in the February payrolls that we received recently. So I think the odds are that they will remove patient from the statement, sort of indicating that they're within a couple of meetings of that initial rate hike.
But a surge in U.S. dollar that came on the back of such forecasts and the European Central Bank printing more euros is clouding the timing of a rate rise. The soaring dollar erodes the price competitiveness of U.S. exporters in the global market, and that would, in turn, slow the country's pace of recovery. It also makes imports cheap for American consumers, putting downward pressure on the inflation rate. Some economic indicators pointing to a still weak U.S. economy are also adding to investors' uncertainty.
Will the Federal Reserve, given what's happening with inflation across the world, look at raising rates at a time when wages are falling and inflation is falling and retail sales growth and durable goods growth in the US economy is currently negative? I think markets are pricing in much too high an expectation that we're going to get a rate rise this year.
The Fed's next move comes in an environment of sluggish global demand and slowing growth. More than 20 central banks across the globe have eased policy this year to revive ailing economies, and Korea is no exception. The Bank of Korea made a surprise rate cut this month, dropping the key rate to a historic low. It also marked the third trim in less than a year.
The Fed's decision on its key rate has largely affected Korea's key rate, but now Korea's interest rate is more affected by monetary policies in regions other than the US.
There are concerns, though, of a massive capital outflow in Korea in the face of the Fed's possible rate hike. Korea's central bank governor Lee Ju-yeol said after a monetary policy meeting this month that the central bank will closely monitor risks related to capital outflows. The good news is that Korea is now less vulnerable to such risks.
Korea continues to post a current account surplus, and this leads to increasing foreign exchange reserves that will help Korea absorb shocks coming from capital outflows.
So, Gia, attention is also being focused on by how much or how fast the rates will be raised if the Fed do raise the rates. So what are market expectations on that?
Well, analysts say the rate will move higher gradually, and they add that once the Fed gives the word for a first rate rise, the announcement of successive hikes will take place on only until the policymakers are certain that the first rate increase is having the kind of impact that they expected. A Morgan Stanley report also shows that Fed officials have raised concerns of a too fast rate hike, that it could put a downward pressure on the country's recovery momentum.
So that gradual rate hike, of course, will reduce the risks or concerns of capital outflows from Korea?
Of course. And that is partially why many here in Korea expect the BOK to maintain its easy monetary policy for a considerable time. It's the rate gap between the two countries, Korea and the U.S., that could trigger a capital outflow from Korea. And as many expect, the gap won't widen drastically. Some even expect another rate cut in the coming months. Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol also said that the central bank will seek expansionary monetary policy until the domestic economy's recovery is reaping some tangible results, opening doors to both sides, a rate cut and leaving it intact.
So we'll have to keep an eye on the Fed's announcement. That'll be made on Wednesday local time, that is.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Jia, for that.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning. It's time to run through the front pages of your newspapers now. The top story on all the papers today is about the president's three-way meeting with the leaders of Korea's ruling and opposition parties. We'll get some more details on this news, starting with a look at the top headline on 중앙일보. And it says Park Geun-hye and Moon Jae-in agree on need to reform civil servants' pension scheme. So it was the first time in 2 years that President Park and her 2012 presidential election rival Moon Jae-in, who is now the head of the main opposition party, sat down for talks yesterday. The meeting was held for almost 2 hours between the president, Moon Jae-in, and also Kim Moo-sung, who is Moon's ruling party counterpart. Now, the president was able to reach a consensus with the heads of the rival parties on reforming the civil servants' pension scheme, which is a move that could raise the prospect of a bipartisan deal on the controversial issue. Moon asked the government to present its bill on reforming the current pension plan for discussions with the opposition party. As such, a pension reform for government officials has gained urgency with the nation's growing pension deficit. And moving on to a side story now on 동아일보. And this one is about a controversial debate over resource diplomacy. The headline says prosecution starts investigation on Gyeongnam Enterprises' first target related to resource diplomacy. So as part of shedding light on the controversy over a failed resource diplomacy pushed by the former Lee Myung-bak administration, the prosecution yesterday launched an investigation on suspicions of illegal investment in shares for the Ambatovi nickel mine project. And if we go ahead and look at the details here, a Korean consortium, including Gyeongnam Enterprises, had won a contract back in 2006 to build facilities for the Ambatovi nickel mine in Madagascar, which was at the time touted as an example of a so-called natural resources development policy promoted by the Lee Myung-bak government. However, Korea Resources Corporation, which represented the consortium, is believed to have given benefits of payment by proxy and favors of shares acquisition to Gyeongnam Enterprises when the firm started suffering from a financial deficit. And now we'll go on to another side article on 조선일보, and this one is something you heard earlier on about the THAAD issue. But for a few other details, this article is titled Korea Calls on Neighboring Countries Not to Exert Influence on THAAD Deployment. You heard about the details on this earlier. So if we have a look at another aspect of this issue that's highlighted here, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Daniel Russell, who flew into Seoul on Monday for a two-day visit as part of senior-level official exchanges between Seoul and Washington, he said that he finds it curious that a third country would presume to make such strong representations about a security system that has not been put in place and is still a matter of theory, adding that he thinks it is for South Korea to decide what measures it will take in its own alliance defense and when. Finally, we'll wrap with a look at the Korea Economic Daily for the top story here. It's called U.S. Shale Power Going Strong. So the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries late on Monday said that production of U.S. shale oil could shrink by the end of this year as a result of the decrease in production of its oil wells. But it seems this claim has in effect helped the shale companies strengthen their competitiveness and pump even more oil. If we take a look at this here, in fact, extremely cheap oil is back with prices plunging to a 6-year low, and that's shown here in this graph as well, perhaps signaling a $30 a barrel range just around the corner. And that was a look at our local headlines this Wednesday, and following are the stock numbers from Tuesday.
Maybe just me, but there is something romantic about the word 봄비 or spring rain, and we are expecting some of that today.
All right, some of that spring rain, it shows you the blossoming flowers, and it gives basically food for the leaves, and everything turns green. And nevertheless, it also gets rid of that a little bit of that fine dust that's in the air, right? But what a Chun Sung-cho for just how much rain we're going to get. Good morning, Sung-cho.
Good morning to you, Sung-cho.
Good morning, guys. Mercury levels didn't fall too much since yesterday afternoon, and despite the higher winds, we're starting off with warmer than average conditions all across the country, such as here in Seoul at 10 degrees Celsius right now. This is thanks to the overcast skies nationwide that worked like a blanket overnight, keeping the lower atmosphere from losing heat. And I can feel it in the air that rain is also coming. The air feels a lot more moist as dry weather advisories and warnings that we've been dealing with for weeks have finally all been lifted throughout the country. And the air conditions will immediately improve once the rain starts to fall and wash away the high levels of microdust in the air. While the greater Seoul area is only expecting light scattered drizzles from 5 to 10 millimeters starting this morning, it's going to go heavier down south. Its coastal regions and the Hallasan mountain areas in Jeju are set to be drenched with up to 80 millimeters of downpours accompanied by stormy conditions. So residents there are definitely advised to pay closer attention to the forecast throughout the day. And here's a closer look at today's temperature readings around the nation. With rain clouds blanketing the entire peninsula, midday highs won't be as high as yesterday. Seoul will peak at 14, Gangneung at just 8, and Jeju will top at 19 degrees Celsius. The weather is expected to clear out by next morning, followed by another warm-up. And this is all for me with the weather forecast. Back to Minjung in the studio.
Millions of Israelis have cast their ballots and now the world awaits. Will Benjamin Netanyahu clinch a fourth term to become the country's longest-running prime minister? We'll connect to the news center where our Eunice Kim is following the developments for us. Good morning, Eunice.
Good morning.
Now, the exit poll figures just came out this morning. In fact, it's a dead heat, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, Min-jung. Too close to call, and this is probably not where Prime Minister Netanyahu expected to be when he called the elections late last year to firm up a stronger coalition government. Exit polls show the race is neck and neck between Netanyahu's Likud party taking 28 seats and his main rival, Isaac Herzog's center-left Zionist Union, securing just one less, 27 in the Knesset. This means the winning party will need to work with other parties in the 120-seat Israeli parliament to form a majority coalition government before a prime minister is named. That could be a process months in the making. Now, latest figures from the Central Elections Committee has voter turnout at 65%. Emerging as the key issues in this race are less security issues as they had been in the past and more issues relating to the local economy and living standards. Polls ahead of the Tuesday election showed 54-year-old Herzog catching up to Netanyahu's lead. He is a former minister of Housing, Welfare and Social Services, hailing from Israel's powerful and wealthy political dynasty launched by his grandfather, who was chief rabbi of Israel in the 1950s. Returning now to the Asia-Pacific region, Indonesian authorities have called off the search efforts for AirAsia Flight 8501 that had dropped off radar contact late last year. The search had recovered 106 bodies, most of them in or near the wreckage in the Java Sea, but 56 were still unaccounted for. Indonesia's rescue agency said the search would conclude on Tuesday night and the ships pulled out today. Reports say family members holding out for hope were disappointed, but understood the operation could not go on indefinitely. Indonesian investigators have said the plane bound for Singapore from the city of Surabaya was trying to fly above a storm, citing radar data with the less experienced co-pilot at the helm.
Let's shift gears now, Eunice. how do you celebrate a 100th birthday? I'm thinking probably quietly among family members, which is what I'll do when I live to see my 100th birthday. But one South African grandma had something else in mind.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking about Georgina Haywood. She turned 100 recently. She was with family, yes, but quietly is probably not the way we describe this daredevil's birthday celebrations. Let me explain. Now, it all began with a flight over the skies of Cape Town on Saturday, where she suited up for a birthday skydive, sporting a red jumpsuit there. She took the jump together with 15 of her family members and friends who joined her in groups of 3. Now, here's what she said about that exhilarating experience.
I said it was a wonderful experience to be able to look around and see the earth below me.
And this wasn't her first jump either. The great-grandmother says it was her third. She took her first when she was 92. Well, a couple days later, she suited up again, this time for a dive with the sharks. She was in a cage, of course, but it was an up-close and personal experience. She called it an experience of a lifetime at the end of my life. And Minjung, the cherry on top, that skydiving experience we showed you will raise money that will be used to buy life jackets for a local nonprofit called the National Sea Rescue Institute. So all around, everybody wins.
Wow, that's an amazing story. That's living your life to the fullest,
Absolutely,
I say.
yeah.
Even at 100, you know, it's amazing.
Life begins.
Right. Thank you, Eunice, for that.
Sure thing.
And talk about living your life to the fullest. Running a marathon is one way of doing that, of course. Marathon season is upon us, and the first thing of the spring is always the Seoul International Marathon on the 3rd week of March, and our Joey Albright will take on the challenge and try to rise to the occasion. Does he run all the way or give up midway? Well, stay tuned to find out.
And whether they be original productions or foreign productions, Korea has hosted a numerous amount of plays, and the number of plays are growing. Well, the Korean Theater Association, or the community, is actually trying to expand that with more new talent as well as new original plays. And our Im Yoon-hee joins us to tell us more on that movement. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so today I have for you 2 more plays, original Korean theater productions that bring together some comedy, some action, but most of all, unique experience for the audience members. Take a look.
There's been an accident, but whose fault is it? The fox or the human? It's even harder to distinguish which is the fox and which is the human. The original Korean play, The Human Fox, has a Mobius strip-like structure with no seeming end or beginning to this ever-ongoing cycle. The play boasts a creative staff made up of some of the leading Korean figures in the industry. Written by one of Korea's leading playwrights, Lee Kang-baek, it's a thought-provoking play that brings a little mystery and a lot of laughter to its audience.
I get frustrated when I'm not myself, and that frustration for others as well, because it's an endless cycle, a repetition of the past, and the inability to move on to the future.
Another new original Korean play to recently hit the stage, but this production has more of a fantastical flair. The comedy crime thriller sets a stage suited to its name. There's a large glowing bull at the center of attention. And although it's considered a play, with all the flashing lights, special effects, and a live band, it's more like a spectacular variety show.
It's okay to enjoy this production without a single thought in mind. But at the same time, while watching it, the floodgates will open, and many different thoughts and ideas may come into your mind.
But beneath the fun and games, the play also has a serious side, offering the audience a range of different emotions. Original Korean plays still have room to grow, but with plenty of creativity and talent to go around, they're sure to make a splash in the future.
room to grow, but at the same time, they do have the resources here in Korea. And also, when you're producing an original play, I'm sure a part of the culture becomes immersed with the production.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, now the last performance takes place at the Namsan Art Center, but that has a unique history in itself.
Right, so the Namsan Art Center this year is actually showing 6 plays and holding 3 different festivals. And this is all part of a joint effort of the theater community to really bolster and to really grow the theater industry, the Korean original theater industry here. And so the Namsan Art Center also has been known and has developed a reputation for really innovative, very unique shows, really taking advantage of the stage. And so that's what you'll see with this performance. I don't know if you noticed in the report, but also this year, they want to raise young playwrights, give young playwrights an opportunity to have their performances on the stage.
And let's go back to that first performance there. You mentioned in the report that it was put together by a team that's actually well established for being a very creative team.
Right. Another notable figure on that team is Kim Hae-ryun, and she actually was part of another production, Garden Balsam or Bongsunhwa, which we saw a little bit earlier this year, last year, I'm sorry. And that is a play about comfort women, the sex slaves of Korea. But that play was very, very successful. Another original Korean play, but that one showed not only around Korea, but also in the States, in California, in Chicago, New York, and is still doing very well. And so with her on the team for this particular performance, you know, the Human Fox, we also have high expectations for that as well.
And it's great to see a lot of the Korean productions, the original productions come up, right? Okay, thank you very much, Uni.
You're very welcome.
All right, still ahead on Korea today. Apparently, Conch is in season, or seawater Conch, and we're going to be using that as the main ingredient for a dish. Do I know what it is? Not just yet, but Jean-Paul Perez does. We're treating you to a tasty, easy dishes made with today's main ingredient. In Korean, it's called Sora, and we'll show you how to marinate it and season it. So stay tuned for that on Korean Kitchen.
Now, one case of vandalism on Seoul's subway trains is grabbing people's attention.
Right. This case involved a group of 4 Australians who recently came to Korea and vandalized and sprayed a graffiti on 3 subway cars. Our Soo Mi-sorang joins us with the details. Good morning, Mi-sorang.
Good morning. And this case aside, the number of cases of vandalism in Seoul is increasing. If we just have a look at this whole subway system as an example, back in 2013, so 2 years ago, there was only 1 case of graffiti. Last year, this jumped to 12 cases, and this year, already 4. Now, if we go back to the 4 Australians and have a look at the timeline of their activities, they arrived in Korea on January 28th, and over the next 10 days, spray-painted trains at 3 different stations before fleeing the country. Each time they entered the station at around 3 a.m. by breaking in through the ventilator. Now, all 4 individuals have been identified through surveillance camera footage, but police say that because vandalism isn't a major offense, it will be hard to extradite them from Australia.
You gotta wonder, why do these people do this?
No. Yeah, from the Thailand, it seems that they came to Korea just for the vandalism.
Right.
Police say that for all 4 individuals, it was their first time coming to Korea, and we can only speculate about their intent at this point. But a graffiti expert did say that very clean and very well-maintained subway trains in large cities, such as the Seoul subway trains, they're considered the holy grail targets among the graffiti subculture. So that may have played a part. On to more positive news this time. Korean scientists have made a breakthrough in artificial photosynthesis technology. The team at the Korea Institute of Science and Technology recently developed a device that mimics photosynthesis. So it combines sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to produce oxygen and carbon compounds, such as carbon monoxide in this case. Now, this technology has been around for a while now, but the breakthrough this time around is in the efficiency. So if we have a look at this chart, the photosynthetic efficiency of typical plant leaves is around 1%. The current artificial photosynthesis technology operates at around 1.8%. But this new technology developed operates up to 4.2%. Now, for reference, a level of at least 10% is required for the technology to be commercialized. So it means that we're now one step closer to using artificial photosynthesis or these artificial leaves to create eco-friendly fuels.
Interesting.
Now, from artificial leaves to real plants, it's UN-designated World Forest Day this Saturday, and the Korean National Arboretum is trying to break a world record by having the most number of people hug trees at the same time. So far, 1,500 people have signed up, and they'll be divided into groups of 50 and spread around the Arboretum. For the record to be valid, everyone must hug the trees at the same time for more than 1 minute. Now, I checked the weather forecast in this region, and it's supposed to be sunny all day on Saturday, but even if things change and it starts raining, they said the event will still go on.
Is it too late to register for this
Too
event?
late,
I'm
unfortunately.
definitely
I would love to take part in this.
It's such an easy task.
It is.
And what's the current record?
So the current record is held by Portland in US, and they had around 940 people. So we only need to break that. But I mean, if you're going to break a world record, you might as well do it by a big margin, right?
All right, good luck to them. Thanks, Pisarang.
You're welcome.
And a good Wednesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Games as the IOC Coordination Commission began its 4 days of review starting on Tuesday. And like it or not, the organizing committee is expecting some negative reviews. Despite some major improvements made in the preparations for the Winter Games, the IOC is expected to give out some negative comments in the current status, including the delay in the constructions. Other key issues that will be brought up by the IOC also include whether or not a test event can be launched next February and the lack of sponsors for the Games. But the organizing committee remain optimistic as they have recently formed a joint working committee with the IOC in hopes to speed up the preparations.
About 6 kilometers.
Now, with Korean national football team head coach Uli Stilleke announcing his latest roster for the upcoming matches this month, nothing's a surprise anymore, which is why no one questioned his latest selections for the national team. Now, on Tuesday, the 61-year-old announced his latest roster and held a brief press conference stating that the team needs to keep making changes in order to improve as he added 2 new faces to the 23-man roster. Now, the new additions include 2 midfielders in Kim Eun-sun of the Suwon Samsung Blue Wings and Lee Jae-sung of the Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors. Meanwhile, the Cinderella pick from the Asian Cup, Lee Jung-hyup, was selected once again as he hopes to continue his success with the national team. Now, another issue brought up by manager Uli Stilleke in the press conference was Chaduri's retirement match, which was set to be on March 31st against New Zealand. And now we can expect that to happen as he confirmed Chaduri's final match. Now, with the KFA scheduled to hold a special ceremony for Chaduri during halftime, manager Uli Stilleke stated that he will start the defender against New Zealand and take him out of the game with 2 to 3 minutes left until halftime so that he can get a huge ovation from the fans. The 61-year-old coach made it clear that it's not just a ceremonial selection and that the veteran deserves a chance to go out in style. Now, basketball fans here in the nation were blessed with a couple of exciting KBL playoff series this past week, and starting tonight, the playoff is going to kick it up a notch. Now, with Game 1 of the best-of-5 round-of-4 playoff series between the Ulsan Mobis Phoebus and the Changwon LG Sakers tipping off later tonight, expect an intense matchup between the two teams. Well, that's because it's a repeat of last year's championship series where Mobis defeated LG in 6 games to claim their 5th title. But with LG playing a full 5-game series against the Goyang Orions in the first round, fatigue might be an issue against the well-rested Mobis team. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
So the question of the day is, did he or did he not finish the full course? I'm talking about Joey Albright.
You know, I was going to say no, but looking at him, he looks about 5 kilos slimmer right now.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Give us the answer.
I will tell you after.
You sound exhausted.
I have no energy.
He ran it.
I ran it. I have no energy. I'm going to be honest. But
what the production makes you go through.
Yeah, but it was worth it. I mean, like it was one of my things I was going to check off my bucket list anyway. So I might as well have done it last week. So I took part, as you guys are mentioning, in an event that signifies the start of spring, the Seoul International Marathon, and it starts in the heart of Seoul, which is Gwanghwamun Square, and it actually goes around Seoul itself. And as you're running, you get to see a lot of touristy attractions. So I was like, hey, why not? Let's give it a try, right?
Sure.
So let's check out and see where I went. Every year, come mid-March, Gwanghwamun Square, always packed with traffic, is filled with tens of thousands of people.
Wow.
They're here to run the 2015 International Marathon. 18,500 runners who are novice, some semi-pro and pro from all over the world.
The course actually passed through my neighborhood.
So we're here at Gwanghwamun. We're going to participate in the Seoul International Marathon. I'm a little bit nervous, but I think I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go. Korea today is on the back, and I think it's going to be a good day.
Gigi, your neighborhood is near the finish line, right?
The origin of this road dates back to 1931 when it was about half the length. And in 1970, overseas athletes were invited to to make it more of a global competition. Some of the elite past marathoners include Song Gi-jung, Hwang Yong-jo, and Lee Bong-ju. This year, the marathon had its largest number of foreigners to date, 1,695 total. That's more
You've
than
ran other marathons.
Yeah.
How many total?
306.
306 marathons.
Wow.
So 306.
Yeah.
You're in very good condition.
Yes, very good.
Any advice for me?
Just start.
Run.
Just start? Just start? That's it? Okay.
As long as you're over 18, there was no limit for applying, and I got to meet the oldest one there. 88 years old.
Wow.
I'm thinking of today as a health checkup. If I'm okay after running the full course, I don't have to go to the hospital.
And before the marathon started, 18,500 people warmed up with a bit of dancing. Today's course started in Gwanghwamun Square, cut through Seoul, and then headed due east to the Olympic Stadium. And it was a classic marathon, meaning that it was 42.195 kilometers long.
Wow.
The International Association of Athletics Federation evaluates world marathons and rates them with a gold, silver, or bronze label. In Korea, the only road race to get a gold label is this one, and that's why there are many amateur as well as renowned marathoners.
Yeah, you look excited now.
It was great to be able to run down the streets of Seoul.
You look tired now.
It's after 100 meters.
Right.
Oh, wow. There's Sungnae-moon Gate. As you're running down the course, you get to pass by it.
Sungnae-moon Gate, Korea's national treasure #1. It was only a 5-minute walk from Seoul Station, and it's a must-see for tourists viewing the city. Also keeping me occupied besides the sights were the people dressed in random clothing.
Oh, someone's looking for a girlfriend.
Oh, I should have done that.
And King Sejong, of course, running.
I run a Chukumi wet-foot octopus restaurant. I'm a marathon ad today.
Did I mention already that it was awesome to be able to run on the major streets? It was a pain in the butt for a lot of the drivers, but we had to run on the roads, so it was kind of nice.
As you can see, there's a bunch of people running along this road, but just behind you is a stream, so you get a nice view of the Cheonje stream as well as running. It's really cool.
These are roads you cannot imagine running on a normal day. It's packed with traffic.
Exactly. Everyone was giving it a go because the roads were closed.
You
so it was
do
kind of
get
nice.
more attention if there's no one else around. But I'm still running better today than usual.
So at various points along the course, there were cheer events and supporters everywhere. And if you've ever been in a competition, you already know how much cheering helps give you that boost of energy. And I felt that a lot during my run. It was a very supportive run. All of that cheering helped me get through to Jongno. Gwajang Market. This place is really famous for Korean traditional pancakes or jeon. Oh, I'm hungry. In 1905, Gwangjang Market opened as the first permanent market in Korea. They sell everything, but the food is what keeps the crowd coming back. Bean dae duck or mung bean pancakes, and the very famous addictive mayak kimbap rolls as well. All right, we have to come back here after the run. Let's go. Now I was around the 30-kilometer mark, Seoul Forest. At this point, I felt with every bone in my body that marathoners are truly diligent. It's just a fight against yourself, and there were hundreds who hadn't even got that far. You can see I'm beat.
When runners pass by, we shout our encouragements.
아이고 힘들어서 어떡해. 아유 파이팅.
Don't give up.
It feels good. I promise to run to the finish.
The spirit of these runners moves me to tears.
So more cheers helped everyone through the last stretch of the course, Jeomseo-daedo Bridge.
Don't give up, Joey.
That's really pretty.
That's the bridge to
So we're about
Jinju's
to
home.
cross Jeomseo Bridge, and I've never actually run across the bridge before. And whenever I was up at the Namsan Tower, I could see the Han River, and it was really pretty at night. I bet you if you're walking along here, it's a really beautiful view. Finally, the finish point, Olympic Stadium. But you weren't done as soon as you got there. They made you run one lap around the track, in total 42.195 kilometers. One lap, and I'm done by that time. Like the last minute, everyone starts to speed up and push their time, you know.
If you can speed up.
Most of the pro marathoners finish the course with a little after to the two-hour mark, but people running this classic course, it's said to take about 4 hours or more, and people started at 8 a.m. and finished around noon or 1.
I would have
Coming
finished
in
at
here,
8
this is
p.m.
just fantastic. You know, this is the 1988 Olympic Stadium, and I always enjoy coming here.
Korean people are really, really fun to run with. They're very supportive. It's a great crowd. I definitely recommend the race to anybody. I mean, it's definitely a travel destination.
Are you ready to test your limit? Then I suggest taking part in a marathon. You may even surprise yourself at what you're capable of. I know I did.
We're proud of you, Joey.
We're proud of you. Let's give Joey a round of applause.
Thank you.
Good job. And that's a medal you got from the marathon.
Yes, it is. And actually, not many people received these. Well, in my opinion, there were a total of 18,500 people who ran the marathon, and roughly 2,500 people could not receive one of these. And I was one of the lucky few who got that opportunity.
You look like a war hero now. Well, would you do that again? Would you run the marathon again?
Probably, I would say I would do it. It was on my bucket list for my New Year's resolution. Well, I guess not bucket list, but I think like, for me, I should have had a little bit more training, a little bit more time to prepare. But I mean, once you get there, you have to really push yourself, no matter how much training you've had prior. You have to push yourself to the finish. And, you know, I mean, even the camera crew running with me and the producer, they were like, George, you got to slow down. I'm like, no, I got to beat my time, you know? So
You're running with your camera, so it'll be more difficult for
Right.
them.
it's true.
And I heard that there were also side events that were held for a good cause, such as Share the Happiness charity race?
Yes, exactly. So a company has been running that event for the past 10 years, and marathoners and supporters can get a list of sponsors who are
qualified through the company, and what those people will do, the sponsors, is they'll give up to roughly 100,000 won or $90 if you complete the race. And so it's kind of unique because this year alone, they actually raised or donated $9,000 total US dollars or 10 million won. But it's not only the Seoul International Marathon that does this particular charity event. A lot of the marathons do it, so it's kind of nice.
All right. Well, I'm still amazed that you could pull the finish line there. How long did it take? I mean, it has to be a long one.
Well, I mean, it took me about 4 hours to finish it. 4 hours.
Wow, that's good.
That's good.
I pushed myself a lot, but I mean, there were times when I was like, where's the camera crew? Where's everybody? I had to take off the helmet because I mean that weighs you down, right? But I mean, there are also like other shorter events as well that people can
10K
participate.
or something?
Yeah, exactly. And so there's the Dongha Marathon, which is the Seoul Challenge. And one thing that's kind of unique about that is a 10K race. Last year, 3,500 people participated in it. However, this year, 5,500 people participated. So it was 2,000 more, obviously. And they have another marathon that's supposed to start in April, the third week of April. The sign up is the April 6th. So you can sign up for it. It starts around April 18th, I think. And they have the options of signing up for the 5K, the 10K, the half marathon, or the full marathon. So
how about we sign up for the 5K?
Yeah, 5K.
You have to do at least the 10.
10?
No,
okay.
no,
He can go for the
5:30.
10. We'll do the 5K one.
then I will probably do nothing and watch you guys. I'll be the cheer.
All right, you can cheer on us. Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Joey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Joey, just wait in the back there. We have some sea snails for you after.
Oh, God.
Thank you, Joey.
Thank you.
Okay, so just as I mentioned to Joey Albright, sea snails is on the menu today. It's known as Conch, and in Korea, we know it as Sora. Jean-Paul Perez joins us. Good morning, Chef.
Good morning.
Okay, so tell us all about this.
Okay, so as you mentioned, the conch or Sora, sea snail, very nutritious, on season right now. And today we're going to make a very simple dish with minari, water drop, and as well skewers, Sora.
All right, so this is something that you can do at home, and then you can just go to the supermarket here.
Yes.
One of the bigger ones, they usually have a lot of the soras or the conch. Any advice on picking it out?
Normally you can easily ask to the young lady over there at the market to pick up for you. Otherwise you take quite a large one, not too big, and you make sure that the meat is not coming out. And you can even like touch it and see if it's still moving. This is normally how you pick it, basically.
Okay. So this is good for you too, right?
It's very good. It's plenty of taurine, which is very good to prevent many adult disease. It's full of amino acid for the growing kids. It's low in fat, calorie, so it's very good, very, very good.
Okay, so
first of all, you're going to help me. I know sometimes it's a bit difficult, but with this, once it's cooked, with skewers, you can just push out the soda out.
So basically, when we usually have it, we blanch them.
Exactly.
And then we just pull it out and then dip it in some chogochujang, or the pasty red pepper paste. But this time you steamed it? Is this what we're doing over here?
Yes, it is. And we only steam it for like 15 minutes. And as you can see, once you steam it, you just take out the green part out of it. And you will remove this part, which is a little bit hard. That's it.
Okay.
And it's quite simple. This is the first preparation we're going to do for it.
Are we throwing that green part away?
Yes, we're going to throw away the green part. We're not going to eat it at all.
Okay. So you're not supposed to eat it?
No, you're not supposed.
Oh, these are tough.
Yes, exactly. And it's full of water. Just put it here and that will be fine. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to ask you now, you did that. I'm going to ask you to mix together the one already pre-cut, which are here. You see the slice one?
Okay. So you just slice it down the middle, basically 1, 2, 3, 4 slices or so, right?
Exactly. In this case, because it's quite large, I just slice in 5, 6 pieces actually.
So you can see what's being done over here, basically like that. All right, let's let the camera see how it's sliced. This is hot.
Oh, it's okay. It's not that hot.
Well, it's hot for me.
Okay.
Okay, so what do I do?
So just mix the one already pre-cut in a
here?
bowl, please. And you're going to add the water drop, the minari.
All of
just
it?
half of it for the moment. Okay. The onions, please.
All of it?
Yes, please.
All of it. Oh.
And what we're going
mess
to
over
do
here.
with the vinegar, we just
I lost some of that.
Yes,
Sorry.
we're going to make a chogochujang. We add the vinegar to the gochujang or red chili paste.
Okay, so under preferable circumstances, I think you'd add a little bit more vinegar, but I dumped half of it, so.
You could use sugar, but what we're going to do is mechil, which is a green plum syrup.
Okay.
So basically, it's kind of sweet and sour sauce we're making. Okay, and I'm going to let you mix all.
Are you sure you can trust me with that?
Yes.
Because I just dumped half your vinegar.
No, it's fine. I will trust you for that.
Okay.
So you can mix with your finger everything. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, in Korea we have this thing called sunmat, right? When this is kind of involves sunmat, or the flavor that comes from the good old hand as well as the heart of a mother.
We add a bit of red chili as well inside. Mix a little bit more. We're going to add just slightly more sauce. That's it. And the last touch will be this one.
Is
Just
that
sesame
oil?
Yes, it is.
Sesame oil.
Okay. So when this is done, you just take a nice portion and you're going to plate it here.
All right.
Meanwhile, I'm going to start to make the skewers.
Okay.
So, as we mentioned before, we already cut in good size this one. Okay. And what I made already, prepared already, it's a sauce with soy sauce, crushed garlic, and spring onion, all mixed together. And we already marinated the meat inside. So, this one. This is very easy as well. Just put nice piece of it.
So what you're doing is you're steaming it and then you're going to be frying it again.
Yes. If you want, you could just pan fry inside the shell already, roast it. It's very nice. But here we just like to add the marinate from the soy sauce and the garlic. You could put as well gochugaru.
Okay. Do you want to use some kind of an oil for the pan? Or?
Yes, just a little bit of oil, not too much. We're not shallow frying or deep frying. It's really just nicely give a slight color to it.
Or add that extra crisp maybe?
Yes. And now I think you're pretty good with what you're doing. So just a short handful, yes.
I'll make it look like hotel quality.
Exactly.
What do you think?
And a little bit more volume to it, and you can add just a little bit of white sesame seed to it. And that will be perfect.
All right.
And we could we're going to left the rest for all the studio. And as you can see, here it's all cooking already.
How long should you let that cook? Because in theory, it's basically all cooked from the steaming process.
Yes. So it's just going to be like 2 minutes, no more. Just a very, very quick, short cooking.
Okay, now we're going to invite Minjung and Chinju right back over here to have a taste as while that's cooking. But you do have some wine that you brought.
Yes.
Now, does this wine go well with the sea conch?
Yes. This wine is called Muscadet. In France, it's from the Atlantic coast. And what happened is the soil over there, it's full of sediment from the shell, from really all the seashell. So the wine is perfect for oyster, raw oyster, seafood platter. French people love this, fresh, always eating with the seafood. And it's 100% from a Muscadet grape as well. So we always drink it very fresh. And as you see, we just get a little bit of color because the soy sauce starts to caramelize.
I wish we could have those thin white noodles for this.
무침. Kind of like 소라무침면.
So this will be for you.
Wow, that was great.
So it's very, very quick.
That looks fabulous.
Party dish, actually.
Yeah.
And it's quite healthy. It's very, very light. So please, just grab some chopstick. Let's try a little bit. And I'm going to try.
Ooh, okay. I think we'll pass the wine for now.
It's 7 o'clock and also.
It's too early for that. There you go.
I'll actually take a glass of that wine.
Jan,
Thank you.
please. Bon appetit.
I love how you plated this and the skewers, the shape of the skewers.
Yeah, it's very, very
How
easy.
is it?
Oh, it's
It's
really
almost
good.
like it's alive in your mouth. It's very
And it's very, just 15
very
minutes, 15 minutes, maybe it's 20 if you want it very, very soft. But that's it. Quick, simple, and fresh.
Great.
All right, we have food in our mouth. Jinju, go ahead.
All right, this is where we say goodbye on this Wednesday morning.
Wow.
We'll be
Thanks
back.
for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, same time at 7.
Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.